Chema. So we are on chapter 7 of the second series of Essays on the Gita, page 245 or 345. Okay, page 345, which means we are somewhere in the middle. And we are entering into chapter 10 of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So basically, as we were saying last time, it's rising to a crescendo of the revelation of the divine. So this revelation, as Sri Krishna tells to Arjun, is being given to him because he is dear to him. It is very interesting. This is not a revelation which the divine reveals himself. You can't, you may think about that God, you may accept him, deny him. That's one side of the story. But when the time comes, as they say, and we can understand it in several ways, when the time comes, then the divine reveals himself to man. With Arjun, the reason why he is revealing, he has already told that, well, one part he has told that we have been together for fighting the battle of the ages. But here he gives a very interesting reason. And he says, because you are taking delight of the heart in God. So that's what is bhakti ultimately. So bhakti, bhaj, comes from taking joy in the divine. Whether in the name of the divine, reading about the divine, understanding the divine, hearing the divine. So when the heart begins to take delight in the divine, then the divine begins to reveal and reveal more and more. So this is the basic background. We read that, something very beautiful, page 345. And that's how he starts, because right in the beginning of this chapter, Shri Krishna says, listen, O Arjun, I am going to tell you now my supreme word, Paramam Vacha. So why he is revealing the supreme word? He says, because you take delight, your heart takes joy in me. So it's something very beautiful. Arjun, I will speak this supreme word to thee, says the Godhead, from my will, for thy soul's good, now that thy heart is taking delight in me. For this delight of the heart in God is the whole constituent and essence of true bhakti. So bhakta is he who takes joy in God. That's the essence of it. So then he goes on to describe what really the divine is, God is, from Shri Krishna, right as they say, from God's mouth, what God is. And one may wonder, why is he revealing all this about himself? When you are young, you want to hear some ideas. Why should God tell about himself? But there is a deep significance in it. And the reason is that if I know where I belong to, whom I belong to, what is my source, then my dealing changes. See, he is reorienting, correcting his orientation. So far, Arjun thinks that he is one of the Pandavas and Krishna is a friend, a worldly friend. He is a Kshatriya, he is here on the battlefield. Now, all these things are one side. But whom do we really belong to? So, the conception of God is so important because it is like the driving power within us, as is our faith and the sure idea that we will ultimately realize. So if the conception of God is that there is no God, so that's how Sri Aurobindo puts it, that to the materialist, he meets in the bosom of annihilation. As is our faith. Even when we deny God, it's a faith that there is no God. So all our life, that faith justifies itself. Experience of life will justify what my faith is. So he is setting right the core. The core of man is his faith and the sure idea in him. So if we take it that there are three layers of our existence, the outermost, which is purely our personality formed by outer forces. And then the inner being, which is a play of forces, cosmic forces impacting. But the core is the faith and the sure idea. So when it comes to faith and sure idea, then what is the highest we can conceive of? We can take it like that. What is our ultimate source? That highest becomes the driving engine. So Sri Krishna is revealing. Again, we see that there are different gods in different religions. Every religion has their own god. Every sect has their own god, idea of God. But the wider the conception of God, the greater is going to be our wingspan when we realize. So Sri Krishna starts by saying that I am the unborn from whom all things are born. So he is the womb of all things. Etada yonihi. So he is the eternal womb of all things. It's so wonderful. So somebody asks, who is your dad? Who is your mom? So we know now. There is. I used to keep Mother and Shubindo's picture in my room. So during my MD days, a friend asked me from FMC. He said, whose pictures are these? I said, my parents. What can you explain all this? You don't want to get into a lecture and discussion. So then he says, whose parents? Your parents or Kavita's? My wife's name. So I said both. Now it was very perplexing, but he thought it better not to ask more. So for his own reasons, the topic shifted. See, when we carry this, that he is the unborn womb of all things, then all this idea about, as is our identity, so is our self-confidence. So, people who keep saying, I'm bad, I'm guilty, that's what I keep telling doctors, that, they put a label and then they forget to take it off because they can't take it off. You can't really treat once a diabetic, forever a diabetic. So now once the label is put, so the person, it's like a negative mantra, you keep on. So why not remember that we are all, as Aurobindo says in Savitri, we are sons of God. And even as He, and are even as He, His human portion, we must grow divine. So this comes from this logic. So Sri Krishna says, not only you and me, but this whole creation, I am the eternal womb. But He Himself is unborn. So there are people who ask this question, that who gave birth to God. So that's very simple. The logical answer is very simple, because the moment you say who gave birth to God, so there will be next level question, who gave birth to Him, who gave birth to God. So, like film actor Amitabh Bachchan once asked his father, Dad, why did you bring me into the world? So his dad is a poet, was a poet. He said, I'll let you know tomorrow. So after some time, much contemplating, he says, I thought about your question. And the only answer I can come to is that, well, I really don't know why my parents gave birth to me and why their parents gave birth to my parents. So frankly, I really don't know, but it's going on for ages. In that process, now you are born. So, who gave birth to God? This question, the moment you say, you have to go. So, birth in this sense is that there is a limitation. So, this is important, because we think birth means suddenly a form is created. So, birth is the self-limitation of the infinite. When the infinite limits itself in finite forms and names, it's a birth. Now, the moment you have this understanding, it becomes very simple. So who gives birth to infinite? It is an irrelevant question. Infinite is infinite. You can't say it has a beginning, it has an end. It's there. But so the divine is infinite consciousness, infinite delight, infinite existence, and out of Him emerge all finite existences, all finite becomings. So that's why it's being and becomings. This is the first part. So then the second thing he says that, okay, this we have heard that God has the origin and everything has come out from Him. But then he says something very interesting, that He governs this cosmos also. He is not just after giving birth, just walked away that cosmos has emerged from me, but I am sitting quietly. Now things are unrolling under a mechanical law. This was one of my difficulties with the karmic law. One of the difficulties, that the moment you say karma is everything, that you are doing and you are reaping. So actually you don't need God. So Buddha that way was much right, that he said it's you, why do you have to bring in God? That means he has no role to play. After creation has started and the ball has set rolling, it's all about what you do and what you are receiving. Where does God come in? Can He pay on my behalf? Can He cancel my transactions? Can He overwrite it? If not, then there is no need really of a God in that sense, apart from creating. And if after creating, He cannot govern it, or He is not governing it, then he is there, all right, but from our everyday point of view, Vyavaharik point of view, it has no meaning, real meaning in our life. So Sri Krishna says, no, he is governing this cosmos. So this is the second aspect. So how is he governing? He reveals that out of him emerge the gods and the rishis. The 7 rishis, not all rishis, 7 rishis. So who are the gods? Gods are the cosmic powers of the divine in the becoming. And they are like, when electricity comes from the main, whatever it is called, you see there are several transformers. So it receives and then it transmits. So gods are like those transformers who receive from that tremendous source and then they transmit. Or everywhere, like our water tanks, it receives and then it transmits. So gods are those energy, they are beings because he is a being. So they are both beings and energy powerhouses who receive the impulsion and they transmit. How they do it? They do it on the basis of an inner intuition which works in them. They don't logically analyze and do, but they act on the basis of an inner intuition. A deep surrender is their source of might. This is a whole description in Secret Knowledge. So gods are the divine's power operating in the becoming. If you do away with the gods, as some religions did, then there will be an unbridgeable gulf between the divine and creation. And that's what has happened. Because he is high up above. And there are no gods. There are no intermediaries. So you cannot explain this. So they try to do it by this nature, it's happening automatically. In India, both have been preserved. The one divine and the many gods. So this is why you can make a coherent sense of everything. So each god becomes at once a limiting power because he is a certain function. And then it goes on down and down. So finite becomings are created. And each one also introduces, this is something which the mother says very beautifully as it comes down, a little bit of distortion in the whole play. Just like in electricity, we can take this example. There is some loss. So now they want that, how electricity, if there can be no loss in the power transmission. But there is a loss. So because of that loss, creation gets deformed. But that's, the Gita doesn't touch here because the problem is war is waiting. So they are the gods. And then they are the rishis. So rishis in the original sense, the Sapt rishis, which Sri Krishna speaks of, are the 7 great seers, Marich and Kashyap and Arundhati and not Arundhati, Agastya, Atri. So these are the 7 rishis who basically are luminous powers of the luminous wisdom. So they are the ones who are like council of ministers to the divine. Why do you need such a council? Because they are intermediary between man's world and God's world, God. So they have emerged out of the divine. And so they receive and transmit. So that's how we see sometimes they are picturized as the movement of the stars. Bhrigu knows the movement of the stars. So they know the workings of fate. Divine knows everything, but these are the powers through which he is extended himself into the creation. And then there are the 4 manus. So this also he speaks of, that I have created the gods and the 7 rishis and the 4 manus. Why 7? Because the thought of the divine is incepted. The Vedas speaks of thought means the impulsion or the vibration that has gone, and these are the 7 planes of existence. So each rishi has the wisdom for that particular plane of existence. They are not material beings, they are beings high above. Sometimes they take a material body. That's why the mother said, it's very interesting, this knowledge that mother says that they were involutionary beings. So they are powers which reign, always they are there, and they take a human body from time to time. Like Duman Bhai, mother said that, he is one of the rishis of the Vedic age. So they take a human body. And then there are the 4 manus. So 4 manus are those which are the manus, manus as the name goes, man. So they are the ones who govern the 4-fold type of humanity. So humanity is basically 4-fold. One which is identified with the physical consciousness, physical nature. The two which are identified with the vital nature, and one more which is identified with the intellectual type. So we have these four layers of humanity. So the four manus. So he says, I am the one who has brought them out. So this is to say that there is a divine governance through these creatures and beings. And that makes perfect sense that what the mother is saying now. Even Sri Krishna, each avatar during that time, he stands in the forefront because all these beings have little by little some loss, some deformation. So creation gradually begins to deviate and tilt. So now the divine who is governing from behind stands in the front. So he becomes the avatar. So he sets right the workings. And during his time, many times the rishis and the gods also come because they are participants in the Leela. So what the mother is saying, mother is now saying ki, okay, there is the old creation which is governed by the gods and they have done a good job or whatever, not so good job, but they have done their bit. They have done with very good intentions and their powers, limited powers. Now she says creation has to go beyond the creation of the gods. So a parallel world has begun where you are transcending the creation which was through the gods and the rishis and the manus, and now it is a direct divine creation which bypasses these intermediary layers. So all this, and that is going to have an impact on everything else. So Sri Krishna says, and we can just read passingly here, what does he speak about the idea of the divine on which the Gita insists as the secret of the whole mystery of existence, the knowledge that leads to liberation. Knowing this very idea of what this origin is liberating. So that's why Shri Krishna is revealing. Otherwise there are people who nowadays, steps to success according to the Gita. That's, you're finishing the Gita. The soul is gone. The Gita is a revelation of what the divine is. When we know, we can reconnect with our own deepest truth. Okay, few lines below. The divine is the unborn eternal who has no origin. There is and can be nothing before him from which he proceeds because he is one and timeless and absolute. Neither the gods nor the great rishis know any birth of me. That's why he is revealing. He who knows me as the unborn without origin are the opening utterances of this supreme word. So he is called as Achintyarupa, Swarupa. So this because you can't define. The moment you define, you are limiting. And so it means that whatever definitions we may give of God, he will always be beyond. And that is something very beautiful because it keeps you young, elixir. People say, what is the secret of remaining young? Secret of remaining young is, you know that neither knowledge nor anything ends. It is infinite. So you will move always ahead. So when you move always ahead, you are young. The moment you think you know, you have found it. That's how Aurobindo says, what arms possessed? None can. The moment you think you have got it, it has slipped. So he says that none of them knows. The human soul that can dwell in the light of this supreme spiritual knowledge is lifted by it beyond the ideative or sensible formulations of the universe, because it is going behind to the original source. And how that helps us, he will reveal step by step. It rises into the ineffable power of an all-exceeding yet all-fulfilling identity, the same beyond and here. How the same is beyond and here, he will tell us. Because it's Sri Krishna who is entered into everything, become everything. So I can't say that these are my deeds and I am separate, even in ordinary life. Can a doctor say, I wrote the prescription, it's not my responsibility? Somebody was asking why name of... I had actually asked them that if I don't write my name as the author, is it okay for the book, for first book, Death, Dying and Beyond? Said, no, we need somebody to put the news around. So I said, yeah, that makes sense. Because, then if there is whom does the buck go to? So the divine is not saying, I have done the creation and now I am not responsible for what you guys do. He says, he flows into creation, something of him. Therefore, he is in everything. Each becoming is him. And we can take this example, beautiful sharbat. So, whoever has made, it has all come, something of that person's heart, that love has poured into it. But we cannot say this sharbat is that person. So, something of the divine is in every becoming, but we cannot say this becoming is. So, it is not becoming is being, it is being is becoming. So, this is the difference, because this limited finite is also, it's like the ray. The ray owes itself to the sun. So, we say sun's rays. But equally, we cannot say ray and the sun are same. That's where the subtle difference lies. So, he says, few lines below, neither the gods nor the titans know thy manifestation. This is what actually Arjun says when he says, sees, hears. He says, neither the gods nor the titans. How can they know? He is Achinta Rupam. He is beyond conception, beyond perception, beyond thought, beyond idea. And the moment you try to formulate, that was the beauty of Buddha. But people mistook him that, well, he says there is no God. He basically denied he said if you define him in limited ways, then you have lost the truth, which is so beautiful. But now it is taken as an Atmavad in this sense that, well, Buddha said there is no God, and atheism draws itself from. But that's not what Buddha originally meant. So his purpose was to free us from all the formulas and formulations so that we can have our own contact and experience with the permanent reality. He refused to define it. So this is where neither the gods nor the titans know thy manifestation, cries Arjun in his reply. The whole universe or even numberless universes cannot manifest him, cannot contain his ineffable light and infinite greatness. This is so beautiful. So every time we look at this world, in stars in space, drifting, there is a meditation. I call it a meditation given by Aurobindo, but these are basically in Ishavasya Upanishad, where the disciple asks him something about one of the verses, and he says, lift your eyes and look at the sun. And then he speaks of the stars drifting in space, and he says, they have been there much before. Even your forefathers came into existence. See, just to meditate upon this is liberating. We are caught in that moment. There was a movie, Buddha in the traffic jam. You are caught in the moment. But the moment you take it that, well, this moment owes itself to infinity. This thought itself is so liberating. So anything can become a means towards that. But at the same time, the divine transcendence is not a negation, nor is it an absolute empty of all relation to the universe. So this is what he's saying, that he exceeds, he's beyond, he's infinite, eternal, absolute. But he is also not only connected, he has become all this. So that's what he is revealing to us. All cosmic relations derive from this supreme. All cosmic existences return to it and find in it alone their true and immeasurable existence. For I am altogether and in every way the origin of the gods and the great rishis. So everything goes back to him and draws from him. The gods are the great undying powers and immortal personalities who consciously inform, constitute, preside over the subjective and objective forces of the cosmos. So that's why whatever we may do, people came, for instance, in India, they destroyed all the idols of God. But this is foolish, because you may destroy all the idols. You can't do away with the gods. They are so much there. A person who says that I believe in liberty, he is basically praying to the God of liberty. Someone who believes in justice, he believes that there is an ideal justice. That's why you believe you are doing whatever you are doing. Or somebody may say that I don't believe in all this, I believe in paisa, money. Well, you are worshipping Dhan Kuber, the god of wealth. You can't do away. They are cosmic powers. And so you may destroy all the temples and the idols, still you cannot destroy their functioning. And India knew this secret. So you see, all the gods which were destroyed have come up again. You cannot. They are carried in the head, they are carried in the cosmos, and this secret was known of the cosmic powers that operate. So they are the cosmic powers. Immortal cosmic powers. See, they cannot be killed, they cannot die. They are the immortal cosmic powers. So, last line on this passage. Nothing in the universe has its real cause in the universe. All proceeds from the supernal existence. So everything exists at three levels of causes. So as a doctor, when people come and ask me, why did this happen to me? So I ask them, which level you want to understand. First is the immediate level. Immediate level, you have a heart attack, artery is probably blocked. But there is an intermediate level, the play of forces, psychological, occult, all this. Ultimate cause is the supreme healer. Ask him why it has come into my way, and he will tell you the remedy. He will heal actually. He doesn't tell the remedy for you to do, he will heal. So for everything, there are three levels. The highest level is beyond the cosmic. So you have individual, cosmic, and the transcendent. And all three are divine in beyond manifestation and in manifestation. This is important because we have cut off God from creation. And as I said, even those who believe, but they are strict adherents of the karmic law. So I ask them, what is God's purpose? If all is your karma, transaction, then God is only an entity, you are praying to Him, but He can do nothing because it's your own karma which determines. So you see how you can do away very subtly. But Mother says, grace can completely cancel karma. She speaks of divine compassion. There is that passage in Savitri, alive in a dead rotating universe, we whirl not here upon a casual globe. A divine intervention thrones above. So that's why this complete picture is important. So the great rishi is called here, as in the Veda, the seven original seers, Maharshya Sapt Purve. The seven ancients of the world are intelligence powers of that divine wisdom, which has evolved all things out of its own self-conscious infinitude, Pragya Purani. So you see, some of these Maharshis were involved even in study of matter. Then you understand that Maharshi is not just about somebody who has learned the Vedas and can chant the mantras. No. He has realized the thought which is operating behind at these seven levels. So somebody may be at a material level. Say when you read the work of a physicist like David Bohm who got the Nobel Prize, you can feel that he is trying to catch the thought of God in matter. It's so close. Someone like Einstein is trying to catch the thought of God at one level in terms of time and space. So these are the seven levels. Bharadwaj Rishi, he was into avionics. He talks about creating a Vimana, all stealth aircraft which is driven without fuel, with fuel, all the technology. So how did they know? They could catch the truth behind these things and then they could manifest it in material plane. So that's how they are rishis, which are the luminous wisdom through which the divine acts. Ramanujam, the beautiful movie on him, the man who knew infinity. He is a Maharshi. Now, we don't normally call him a Maharshi. We have to call a Maharshi with somebody who is bearded and, who talks about Upanishad mantras with correct intonation. This is our folly. Maharshi is somebody who has caught the thought of God in one of these levels or many levels or all the levels and is transmitting that. So these are the Maharshis who are all upholding, all illumining, all manifesting seven thoughts of the Veda. Sapt, Dhya, of the thought, the mentality. Along with these are coupled the four eternal manus, fathers of man. For the entire nature, active nature of the Godhead is fourfold, and humanity expresses this nature in its fourfold character. So we have the four great aspects of the Divine Mother. So wisdom, strength, love, beauty, harmony, and perfection. So these are the fourfold aspects. So accordingly, there are the four manus who at a mental level are receiving and transmitting this. So they try to create order in the society by each type of humanity, which is not fixed, but it is in the evolutionary hierarchy. Man starts from the material and closes his first part of the journey when he is into knowledge, and then he has to go beyond. So this is all he describes. And there's something so beautiful, reminds me of a prayer of the mother, the last line on this passage. Spirit of all spirits, soul of all souls, mind of all mind, life of all life, substance of all form, this transcendent absolute is no complete opposite of all we are, but on the contrary, the originating and illuminating absolute of all the principles and powers of our world, our and the world's being and nature. So, Ganga, you take a bath, it purifies. Now, I'm talking of how it's believed. I believe it can do it if you really have faith. That's different that we come out and say, now fresh sins I can commit, like people who go to this, in front of God, and then they say, now I have fresh lease. So, but why is it? Outwardly it has become very dirty. Because in its origin, you remember that it has come out from the, heart of Vishnu. His purest emotions that rose in the heart of Vishnu when he witnessed the dance of Shiva. And it was captured by Brahma because it was a power which had never manifested. And then it flew through the jata of Shiva. So Ganga is that. And even in the outer form, though distorted, though polluted, still it carries that power flowing into it. So that's the whole secret of creation. That you can pick up even a stone and connect with the divine. So the difference is like, okay, you may take a ordinary stone, but supposing you have Shaligram, it's more perfect manifestation. So that's the only difference. So there is a distortion and there is a manifestation which is closer and closer to the perfection. So that's what he reveals to us. Next page. He is the being. So, okay, no, we have to read. The transcendent origin of our existence is not separated from us by any unbridgeable gulf and does not disown the creatures that derive from him or condemn them to be only the figments of an illusion. So, divine is not saying you guys messed it up. Sorry. Nor is he saying that you guys are actually illusion. Wake up to this illusion. Now, if that's the fact, actual fact, then who will wake up from what? So, he is the being, all are his becomings. So, even our substance derives from that. That's why the body can be transformed. There is a line in Savitri where he says that, out of the immortals, substance you were made. Almighty powers are shut in nature's cells. It's not figurative. It's not a metaphor. Because there has to be only one substance. From what substance was creation created by God? They say that he picked up mud and created. But where did the mud come from? It has to be his own substance. His own substance, whatever he does like a super chemist, dilutes. Because otherwise you can't have stable creations out of his substance. He'll immediately melt away. So he brings out of himself his own substance. And through a process of involution, diminution, ultimately you have a substance which can become solid and stable. But we should never forget, the substance is derived from that. And if that can be awakened and this can receive, both is required. If you awaken that, this cannot receive, it will blow off. I remember seeing people had so many experiences with Sri Aurobindo and the mother. They couldn't bear just a few moments, seconds of contact from a distance, and they couldn't bear that tremendous power. I remember just one such contact with Champaklalji, and his body was like radiating. It started all tears, that joy and that psychic urge, and Kavita too felt that there is no body, there is only light. She felt like that, she saw like that. But I at least saw the body and the light and touched his feet and he did everything. And then I wondered, I asked somebody, how does he go out when he travels? So the answer that I got was given by those who were close to him. No, he veils himself. So you understand how Mother and Aurobindo came veiled as us. And Mother says that when somebody asked, Mother, why don't we see you as you are? He says, will you be able to bear it? The stories where people fainted. See, when even Shri Krishna reveals his Vishwarup, see that Vishwarup means something very interesting. The same substance of which his transcendent being, Achintya Rupa, the same substance ultimately has become the body. So he can extend and show. But it cannot be permanently done right now because the body is not ready to bear and hold. So it has to go through so many pralayas to be able to hold that flame. But that is the final answer. So, he is the being, all are his becomings. He does not create out of a void, out of a nihil, or out of an unsubstantial matrix of dream. Out of himself he creates. Out of the immortal substance you were made. So see how powerful. In himself he becomes, all are in his being, and all is of his being. This truth admits and exceeds the pantheistic seeing of things. Vasudeva is all. Vasudeva sarvam iti samahatma cha durlabha. So all this that is God. How beautiful. And this is so liberating, actually. See, it is liberating. You are stuck somewhere. You are in a situation where a monster is in front of you. Human monster. Real monsters are okay. But human monster, wearing the cloak of a politician. They are the most monstrous people left. Why? Because human monsters are dangerous because they can deceive you by their appearance. Those monsters with two horns and all are okay. You'll know they are monsters. Stay away. Hissing monsters. But they deceive by appearance. And that is so dangerous because they sometimes present themselves as very benevolent beings. So what do? You have to go back. Okay, whatever you are, whoever you are. Ultimately, you are the mother. Deep inside. You don't know it. And see, this liberates. All fear vanishes instantly. So that's why he's saying it's a liberating knowledge. This knowledge liberates us. Vasudev is all. Vasudevam Buddhevaha Sarvam. But Vasudev is all that appears in the cosmos because he is true. All that does not appear in it. All that is never manifested. So always there is something new which can come in. Something makes this game of games so exciting. There are new things to manifest. All his being is in no way limited by his becoming. So that's what somebody has created this, but that person can create something even better. So that's where it's always moving forward. He is in no degree bound by this world of relations. So when people ask Aurobindo that you are saying something which the previous rishis have not said, he said, if going beyond the previous rishis is a sin, then many others have done this before me. And he gives example of Shri Krishna, of Buddha. That but God is moving forward. That's the beauty of creation, that there is hope. None of us is stuck permanently in the traffic jam. The traffic is moving. And we are all moving forward at different paces. Even in becoming, all he is still a transcendence. Even in assuming finite forms, he is always the infinite. Nature, Prakriti, is in her essence his spiritual power, self-power, Atma Shakti. The spiritual self-power develops infinite primal qualities of becoming in the inwardness of things and turns them into an external surface of form and action. So what it means is the subjective and objective becoming. So subjective becoming is like states of consciousness. Or you want to, let's say, a painter wants to paint a picture of peace. Now, peace is the subjective becoming. First, he must either experience peace or has a conception of peace. So I remember this because one of the paintings that expressed peace and got prize, I really loved that painting. So people would make peace, normally very quiet landscape, isn't it? Or the sky and something. That's how it'll make. This man made a painting of a tornado storm hitting the tree and all nature is in fury. And there was a little bird sitting quietly on a branch. How you see? That's an image of peace. Krishna on the Kurukshetra is peace. So, this peace is the conception, the subjective becoming. So, subjective becoming is always something which is divine in origin. And then you have the becomings, outer, objective becomings. And all these are the divine, the subjective and the objective. Now, when you present it objectively, then it undergoes distortion. That is true. Because none of the instruments that are involved, the gods and all this, or nature herself, she's not able to fully reproduce. And understandable, poor girl, she is experiencing that which he's achintarupam. She's trying to give him form. So when she tries to make image of Krishna, so now how does she express delight? So she expresses in ways. And we invariably catch that, you see, whenever people express Shri Krishna and Sri Aurobindo's relation, you must have seen, we have had plays here also in Auroville. So whom do we show invariably? Basuri Shri Krishna. When Sri Aurobindo was asked, which Shri Krishna you were in contact with, he said of the Gita. We cannot conceive that on Karma Yogin, every issue has the Gita's image. But see, human mind gets fixated. Must have seen, here also plays have been there and everywhere. Invariably, there is so image of Krishna, very sweet Krishna. But Sri Aurobindo was in contact with Krishna the terrible. Krishna and Kali come together. So you see, and yet no image can capture him. So that is the beauty. Okay. So this is the subjective and next passage. This finite outward becoming is an expressive phenomenon of the divine infinite. Nature is secondarily the lower nature, a subordinate variable development of a few selective combinations out of the many possibilities of infinite. Through the Swabhav, this we have already. And in this lower, outward and apparent order of things, nature as an expressive power of the Godhead is disfigured by the perversions of an obscure cosmic ignorance, and her divine significance is lost in the materialized, separative and egoistic mechanism of her mental and vital experience. But still, here also, all is from the Supreme Godhead, a birth, a becoming, an evolution, a process of development through action of nature out of the transcendent. And then this quote, I am the birth of everything, and from me all proceeds into development of action and movement. Not only is this true of all that we call good or praise and recognize as divine. All that is luminous, sattvic, ethical, peace-giving, spiritually joy-giving, understanding and knowledge and freedom from the bewilderment of the ignorance, forgiveness and truth and self-government and calm of inner control, non-injuring and equality, contentment and austerity and giving. So he says all this is understood. People say is divine, coming from him. What about the Mazda of the Ahur Mazda? What about that? Where does it come from? Sri Krishna makes it clear. It is true also of the oppositions that perplex the mortal mind and bring in ignorance and its bewilderment, grief and pleasure, coming into being and destruction, fear and fearlessness, glory and ingloriousness. So when Mahabharata is over and all of them ascend, so they discover that Duryodhana is also enjoying his swarg. He has gone earlier. What is this? So they say, see, he had something which was of a divine quality. What was that? He was a Veer. All said and done, the fellow till the last day. So everybody has within him some portion which is divine, but it is disfigured. Which includes even, that's how, even you have the same light or same power. A person uses it to commit theft, another person uses it to catch a thief, another person uses it to transform a criminal. So there was a nice movie. See, some movies catch these claims. Dirty Harry, I don't know whether, long back, 60s, no, sorry, 70s, so, my graduation days. So, Dirty Harry's movie about those renegade elements, We had our Indian version, how did I forget? Sholay. Sholay is about two criminals. And they are thieves, scoundrels. But there is one quality in them. Those fellows are good at heart, and if they give a word, they want to stand by it. And see now, what is the movie? Why did the movie create such a sensation? Because it unwittingly, unknowingly shows that how these two people who are basically, they are in a jail and prison, suddenly when their best part comes out, it goes beyond even the good of the police people and all, it leaves them behind. They sacrifice, they carry within them the spirit of sacrifice. So everybody carries in himself, however dark the envelope may be. That's what it means. So that's why there are many bhajans which indicate that everything comes from Krishna, because Sri Krishna in the Gita himself says that even the thief, his or the person who is the clever, who is deceiving, even his intelligence, I am the light of his intelligence. No, he's not, doesn't mean he's making him do the crime. But still the light is from there. That's how, he is a clever man, as they say. So there is the bhajan which says, Chaurasya Chauram. I don't know whether you heard or not. It's a wonderful bhajan by Pandit Jasraj, he has sung it. That Krishna is the thief. And he's stealing all the matkas. Then he's stealing human beings' hearts. And he's stealing this and stealing the robes of the gopis. So that capacity to steal, the power to steal, but then in human nature it becomes this. So, but you have to go back to its origin. If you turn it, that's why they say that some of these people who have been, now movies have come like that somebody who was hacking into people's computers, he becomes an asset because he's able to hack into, he can understand how a criminal is thinking and he's able to find the solution. So this is what it means. That there is the same divine intelligence operating even in them. But it has got distorted and disfigured, which means you remove the disfigurement, it is something beautiful. Not a Manichean division between good and bad and right and wrong and good and evil. That's not, that one has one origin, the other has other origin. That's what Shri Krishna is revealing to us. Okay, so we can go to maybe, okay. So then it comes to our take-home point. So on page 350, but there is another supreme reality of the infinite that must also be recognized as an indispensable element of the liberating knowledge. This reality is that of the transcendent downlook as well as the close immanent presence of the divine government of the universe. Now how this helps us, we'll come to that. This character of the knowledge, next page, 351, is emphasized in 3 separate verses of promise. So this is what we have to remember, and remembering we have to live that truth. First is, whosoever knows me, says the Godhead, as the unborn who is without origin, mighty Lord of the worlds and peoples, lives unbewildered among mortals, and is delivered from all sin and evil. That means all the time we must look toward this divine origin, this transcendent Godhead. So this is the first, it liberates. So what happens to the body, what happens to the outer world, but there is this liberating truth, that there is the unborn, infinite, eternal. So this liberates us from all the vagaries and wanderings of time. Second is, whosoever knows in its right principles, this my pervading lordship and this my yoga, the divine yoga, Aishwarya yoga, by which the transcendent is one with all existences, even while more than them all, and dwells in them and contains them as becomings of his own nature, unites himself to me by an untrembling yoga. So first is the liberating knowledge that there is the divine who is beyond all these becomings, transcendent. So it's very liberating because obviously whatever may happen is happening now. There is a greater truth that is always there. This is, as they say, impermanent, transient. But this may lead to an otherworldliness. So there is the other truth that even in becomings, ultimately He is there. The appearance of terror, of grief, but He is behind it all, carrying me through all this, carrying the world through all this. So there is the second liberating knowledge. And the third is, so that's why he says untrembling yoga. Then you don't have fear. Because whatever these may be, here also He is in everything. Then the third is the wise hold me for the birth of each and all, hold each and all as developing from me its action and movement. And so, holding, they love and adore me, and I give them the yoga of the understanding by which they come to me, and I destroy for them the darkness which is born of the ignorance. So when we divide life into good and bad, good and evil, then there is a problem in our dealing with the world. We cannot form a right relation. But the moment we know that there is behind everything the same divine, smiling. It is the Divine Mother who is wearing this distorted mask. Then if somebody gets very angry, I'll smile. Or I'll just, as they say, let it pass. Who is she? Or who is he? This is the Divine Mother wearing this form. This can solve many problems of the world, especially human relation, husband, wife, friends, whatever. See the divine in the other person, you will be peaceful. And other person will also eventually be peaceful because you are not reinforcing this false identity. You are bad, you are evil, you have done this to me. So what are we doing? We are reinforcing. His ego is getting on to, Acha, you say this to me, I'll show you. But if you keep on with this idea that whatever be the appearance, still at the core there is divine. Now you see at some point the person will be compelled that, well, the fellow has much more faith in me than myself. And by the power of this thought, the divine will begin to emerge. What did the mother do? She says, I always look upward, towards beauty, light, good. And therefore, people are compelled to be what we are in our depths. She didn't look upon, oh, he is a thief, he is a scoundrel, he is he is a debauch. When people went and told her about people, he said, don't look at all these things. I know it. But what was he seeing? The divine possibility. So everybody would come out. But Manician God, what does he do? This is good, this is bad. Finished. And this is a very dangerous thing. This is Manicianism, I am sure people have, read about it. And Aurobindo uses this term, a Manician creator. He divides world into this is good, this is bad, this is right, this is wrong. But when you see it as unfolding, what you see wrong today is moving towards right. That's the whole idea of transformation. So first it becomes the wisdom of the intelligence, then it becomes the wisdom in the heart, then, This change of the heart and mind is the beginning of a total change of all the nature. Change of this idea. So gradually it begins to change. A new inner birth and becoming prepares us for oneness with the supreme object of our love and adoration. Madhbhavaya. There is an intense delight of love in the greatness and beauty and perfection of this divine being, now seen and everywhere in the world and above it. So, Preeti, that is the word he has used. So then you develop love for universal love and compassion for all creatures. The deeper ecstasy assumes the place of the scattered and external pleasure of the mind in existence, or rather it draws all other delight into it and transforms by a marvelous alchemy the mind's and the heart's feelings and all the sense movements. The whole consciousness becomes full of the Godhead and replete with His answering consciousness. The whole life flows into one sea of bliss experience. All the speech and thought of such God lovers become a mutual utterance and understanding of the divine. Because then you are living with the sense of the divine everywhere, behind everything. It's a correction one keeps doing inside. The last part on page 353, I'll read it again, it's very beautiful. Page 353, the last sentence. The whole consciousness, when we meditate upon this idea, God as the being transcendent, God in the becoming, God as the immanent in everyone, God even in this outer play, God in nature, then what happens? The whole consciousness becomes full of the Godhead. Because everywhere you are, and replete with his answering consciousness. So he answers. How long will he hide? You are living with a terrible person. Keep saying, you are hiding behind this, okay? You want to play this hide and seek game? After some time you'll say, okay, you have found me. God is playing hide and seek everywhere. So when you begin to seek Him in everything and everywhere, then it doesn't matter actually. That's how Meera got married, thinking that Krishna is everywhere. When she was outcast from the palace, Krishna is everywhere. It didn't matter to her either ways. When her husband gave her poison, she drank it, saying Krishna is everywhere and in everything. So that is the state to which we can, and it's a state full of bliss. So he says, replete with his answering consciousness, the whole life flows into one sea of bliss experience. All the speech and thought of such God lovers becomes a mutual utterance and understanding of the divine. So the divine pours through these God lovers. So you address to the divine and the divine addresses you. There is the responding consciousness. So answering consciousness. In that one joy is concentrated all the contentment of the being, all the play and pleasure of the nature. There is a continual union from moment to moment in the thought and memory. There is an unbroken continuity of the experience of oneness in the spirit. So if you ask such a person, when do you meditate, how many hours you meditate, he'll say, I mean, don't ask me. It's a constant, undeviating memory and union with the eternal. You don't need to do anything. It's a constant, undeviating memory. That's how he reveals to us. And from the moment that this inner state begins, even in the stage of imperfection, so it starts in that state, the divine confirms it by the perfect yoga of the will and intelligence. So then what will happen is you start it imperfectly as an idea. How will he confirm? He'll remind you. The intelligence will keep on, the divine. Not the appearance, the divine in the becoming. So he will confirm it as the yoga of intelligent will. Don't act as if he is your enemy or friend. Don't act based on your liking and disliking. Act as the divine is in the person. And then see what you feel. It doesn't mean say, oh, so nice meeting you. Not all that. Divine. Don't fix a way to him. And see, so beautiful. He uplifts the blazing lamp of knowledge within us. He destroys the ignorance of the separative mind and will. He stands revealed in the human spirit. So Sri Krishna, even while he is ensuring that Arjun slays Karna, still he ensures that he should get rid of any kind of hatred, any kind of enmity. And in fact, in his last moment, he says, Karna has to go because that's the dharma. But he says, you know what? He deserves the Divyastra. Don't kill him by an ordinary weapon. He deserves to die in the glorious way. So you see, this is where the oneness. You're not saying, this fellow always competed with you. Show him today, Arjun, who you are. He doesn't say that. He says he deserves. He has to go because that has been decreed by the divine will. But give him a glorious death. So you see, this is the whole catch. By the yoga of the will and intelligence, founded on an illumined union of works and knowledge. Now, there was a yoga of intelligent will in chapter 2. Now, in chapter 10, there is this yoga of, once again, he is uplifting. So, what is the difference? In the second chapter, the yoga of intelligence and will is leading us to beyond the mutable to the immutable. But as we know, it is incomplete because it does not take you to the transcendent Purushottama. Now it becomes the Purushottama. So there is God love. Yoga of intelligent will is not about God love. Even service comes passingly. It's only Buddhi Yoga. But now Buddhi Yoga is lifted through adoration and service to another level. So he says, founded on an illumined union of works and knowledge, the transition was effected from our lower troubled mind ranges to the immutable calm of the witnessing soul above the active nature. But now, by this greater yoga of the Buddhi, founded on an illumined union of love and adoration, with an all-comprehending knowledge, the soul rises in a vast ecstasy to the whole transcendent truth of the absolute and all originating Godhead. So that gives peace, the chapter 2 ala Buddhi Yoga. But now the Buddhi is uplifted. From peace it enters into ecstasy, love. The eternal is fulfilled in the individual spirit and individual nature. The individual spirit is exalted from birth in time to the infinitudes of the eternal. So we will continue next week. Next week we have.